Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever day, whatever time of day it may be for you as you watch this. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Candid Conversations with Shawanna. I'm Shawanna Kendrick, your host, and today we have an amazing young woman who I have grown to love and admire so much over the years. Met her in church, and when I tell you she just has the best spirit about her, the best energy, she is just a phenom. She is currently a recruiter, a wife, a mother of two, and y'all, she has an amazing story to share. Aleshia Smith, thank you and welcome to Candid Conversations.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, awesome. So let's get right down to it. I've said a lot about who you are and what everything looks like on the surface, but one of the reasons I wanted to have this conversation with you is because you've experienced some things in life that a lot of women have experienced, and some don't even really understand what you've experienced. So I'll let you tell us a little bit about your husband, who I also adore. He's amazing, and you all's relationship and how we kind of came to today.
Okay, so my husband, Irvin Smith, and I, we were high school sweethearts. We met in 11th grade. He actually snuck into my English class so that he would have the chance to meet me. So from there, we became friends. And it was funny because back then I would tell my dad about this guy, and my dad would say, "He's not your friend." And I was like, "Yeah, he's my best friend, Dad. We talk about everything." Well, it turns out Daddy was right. So we started dating our senior year in high school. We went to college. He went to LSU. I went to Vanderbilt, and we just decided we're far away from each other. Let's just not, put any pressure on anything. So we spent our freshman year apart. We got back together our sophomore year of college, and we've been together ever since. So on July 30th, we will have been married for 9 years.
Awesome. That is so wonderful. God has truly blessed you guys. You and I met, or I met you and your husband while you guys were here in Chattanooga. You're now in Mississippi, or are you in Memphis?
Yes. So we live in Mississippi, but it's like 20 minutes from Memphis. So it's like Ringgold to Chattanooga, that kind of situation.
Gotcha. Okay. And one of the things that stood out while you guys were still here, I remember you were so candid and just really transparent about some things that you had experienced along the way and how that has just kind of shaped you into the woman you are today. Tell us a little bit about that.
So actually, when I joined Orchard Knob, when my husband and I first started visiting, I was pregnant with, at the time, my sixth child. And so backstory to that, we had, of course, you're married, you want to start a family. We got married at 22. No one tells you about, issues or anything could happen when starting a family. You see it on TV, you just, do it, and then here comes a baby. Well, for us, that wasn't kind of our path. We lost four babies, and those babies were, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Everyone said it was normal, different reasons that each one could have happened. We don't know. I think I lost one baby at exactly 4 weeks. So they told me I was barely pregnant. How did I even know? Was I sure that I was pregnant? So because I was hypersensitive to it, I knew. And that's why we were in the office when we were. So different things like that happened. And then I remember the fifth pregnancy stood out to me a lot, just because the baby wasn't in the right place. So I miscarried the baby, but it stayed and it kept growing and it was causing me to bleed internally. So I actually almost kind of lost my life with that baby. I was in the hospital. My parents had to come. I had to get blood transfusions. It was all of this, and it was just a big hoopla. It was crazy. And then lo and behold, 3 months later, I'm pregnant again. So that was with my son, Braden. I carried Braden to 27 weeks before I went for my normal checkup, and they said, there's no heartbeat. I guess that was very devastating for me, just because, we prayed, we fasted. Actually, when we were trying to have Braden, we fasted. We were diligent in what we were asking God for, and we felt like it was our time. It was our reward. We were there. This is our son. We both wanted a boy. It was like all the conditions lined up to be perfect. And then to hear, hey, there's no heartbeat. We have to go. You have to have this baby. And then from there, you have to take care of, funeralizing him and doing all of these other things. So it was pretty devastating, and no one really prepared you for that moment. And so at that time, because I was so far along, I mean, I was, 7 months pregnant. Everyone knew my baby shower was planned. I sat down with my husband. I was like, how do we tell everybody? Like, I don't want people asking me, where's my baby? Where's my baby? And I don't have them. So I said, you know what? I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to put it out there on Facebook. I'm going to let people know what happened to us. And, you know, it was more so to share that this is what's happened to us. Thank you all for praying for us, because by this time you lose 6 kids, everyone is rooting for you. And I remember in that moment, I felt like I had let everybody down. When my husband came into that appointment, I remember it was the one day he didn't come with me to the doctor, and he left his phone at home. So I couldn't even call and let him know what was going on. And he burst into the office, and I told him, I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I couldn't do this for you. And he said, I remember his words clear as day. You have nothing to be sorry about. Do you remember Job? Job lost everything. And what happened? This is our moment. This is our moment. This is where we show our faith. This is where we stand strong. So when I made that post, I just told everybody, of course, that we had lost our son, that we were still thankful, we were still hopeful. And our biggest thing at that moment was to rejoice in the moment, give God the glory, give God the praise when things weren't going our way. Because how can we expect a blessing if, you're only thanking him when things are good? So everyone's like, oh, you're so positive. You're so positive. I'm like, hey, my God provides for me whenever. I'm going to give him the glory right now when I'm upset, when I'm crying, when I don't understand. And then he's going to get the glory out of that. He's going to reward me over for that. So, crazy thing. I was finally coming to the terms, because my husband and I decided, we were like, okay, well, what if motherhood is just not for me? Like, what if it's just not our thing? What if we have to be okay if that's our walk? And my husband was not convinced. He was he's like, no, we're going to have children. Like, that's in the plans for us. But me internally having to deal with this, I'm like, maybe that's not my path. Maybe adoption is. I just started thinking all of these things. And finally, I got okay with, you know what, I'm just going to accept whatever God has for me. And if that's not being a mother the traditional way, that's what it is. Maybe I'm meant to be that good friend, that great aunt. And then soon, not to even 2 weeks after, I was like, I'm cool with this. Like, this is how it's going to go. I found out I was pregnant. And so with that pregnancy, brought me my daughter, Aaliyah. And, I told Shawanna this earlier. I was like, we were like, yes, God, this is a lot, thank you for waiting on this blessing. It was your timing, because we weren't there yet, because this is a lot. Boom, 10 months, I'm pregnant again with my other child. And I was like, okay, double for my trouble. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. So then I had another baby. So now I'm running around here with the 3 and a 2-year-old, who are the most vibrant creations that I have ever seen. But I am so blessed with them. But back to my struggle, being able to share that transparency, being able to share what has happened with us, it allowed just women from all over to reach out to me and say, hey, this has happened to me. I've had a couple friends that said, hey, my friend is going through this. She doesn't want to talk about it. Can you reach out to her? Here's her number. And, I'm able to talk to that mother. And with that particular mom, she suffered with infertility just because she had different things with, I think, cancer. And they told her she could not have a baby. She did IVF, didn't work. She had, a surrogate fell through. And through all this time, it's been probably like 2 or 3 years, I've kept up with her. And she recently just adopted a brand new baby. So she's a new mom. So I always keep a prayer list of these ladies that I've reached out to. I call and I check in on them. I say, hey, you're strong. You got this, no matter what. God's timing is everything. So I've been able to reach out and share my gifts, share my story, share my transparency. They have questions that they don't want to ask anybody. What did you do afterwards? Did you get genetic testing? Were you scared? I was like, yes, I did all of that, and none of it came back. And you know what that means? God's hand was in it. We don't have any control. And I was like, if you want to do that, I give the best advice coming from our situation, and then just encouraging those women to have faith, keep giving God the honor and the glory, because when it's your time, it's going to be your time. and you want to just prepare yourself for that blessing. So that's what I've been able to accomplish since then. I feel like we as women, and especially as Black women, we don't talk about those struggles. We don't talk about miscarriage, infertility. That's not something that, I mean, even when you get down to a postpartum depression, that's not something that we all talk about as in the Black community. And I feel like I was able to at least reach out and help some people that were uncomfortable with those situations. I haven't shied away from it. I had somebody at one time call me irresponsible for continuing to try to have a family. And so just being able to combat that with, God said I can have it. So I'm going to go get it until he says no. So, I mean, I've helped women even in that sense, being like, well, my parents or my family said I shouldn't try. If God said you can have it, if he hasn't told you no, then ma'am, that family is yours. Go get it. So that's kind of been my story, my take on it, and what I've been able to do, and just, I mean, even mentioning from my mom, I've had church members that that I've known my entire life share with me, hey, I had 8 miscarriages before I had, your friend. So, one of them, she adopted because she thought she couldn't have a baby. And then she had one. So just sharing those stories and being able to be transparent, I think that's our responsibility as a Christian. My struggle is nothing if it's just my struggle and it only helps me. God wants us to share that way someone else can see that light at the end of the tunnel. And though those stories don't always end up with, a baby in the end, or, a happy family, at least, if I can share with staying faithful, staying, true to God, if that, at the end of that, that's a business. At the end of that, if that's a new job, a house, just that faithfulness, sowing that seed and trusting his plan for your life, if that helps anyone at all, that's all I want to do.
Amen. Oh my gosh. So thank you for sharing that. Like, I really am grateful that you have been so open about what you have experienced. And I'm even more excited that you have been open about the fact that this was all God. This wasn't
Mm-hmm.
you or your husband. This was, okay, we're going to keep going and we're going to trust God no matter what. And until he says no, we're going to keep going. Um, so now that leads me to my next question. You and I have talked about this somewhat, um, but since you do realize this is ministry, it doesn't have to have a label. It doesn't have to have some big fancy logo or a platform online or any. This is ministry. What we experience in our lives, that's ministry. Were you ever afraid to even think about your experience and sharing your experience with others as ministry?
I don't think I've ever been afraid. I'm such an open, friendly, and I always want to help people. I honestly didn't know it would touch as many people as it did. I have people that don't have children that reach out to me and they're like, hey, when I get ready, I'm coming to you. And I'm just like, well, okay, just because I don't consider myself a subject matter expert or anything. I just consider myself something that a whole lot of things happened to, but in all of that, I was able to remain positive and remain steadfast. And I truly believe that's in part due to my husband. Whenever I was down or I was like, my biggest thought, I think, is naturally, I was like, I can't give you children. Like, you married me. We want a family, and it's my responsibility to bring you a child. At one point I was like, if you want to leave me, I can understand, because I didn't know that this would happen to me. His answer was always, no, you're my wife, you're going to have my children. So I think I've always been open and honest and willing to share my story. Now, I think where I falter is where I'm not seeking, or I'm not going out and saying, hey, who needs my help? I'm more kind of in the background. If you reach out to me, just because it's a sensitive subject, some people don't want to talk about it. You don't want to admit, it's looked at as a failure. I can totally relate. Your body's not doing what it's supposed to do, so that can seem that way. So I think the only thing where God is still nudging me is like, you need to get out there. You need to be, a beacon more so than just a little. I feel like right now I'm a little flame.
You are a powerful flame, ma'am. There is nothing little about your flame. I mean, those who don't know Aleshia, her energy, if you're ever in her presence, I mean, this girl is a bundle, this woman, I apologize, is just a bundle of joy and energy and just positivity. And you see God in her. That's what drew me to her. And really this whole candid conversation thing, trust me, that's all God, because I've really been fighting and didn't want to. You want me to do what now? Because there are other people who can do this, and I don't have to be at the forefront. Let me support. Let me just run the technology behind it. I don't have to do this. But right? But at the end of the day, God has something for each and every one of us to do, and it's so important that we're obedient in that. And you're right, sis. God's timing is perfect. Like, we worry
Yes.
about all the other stuff. I mean, you mentioned it just a minute ago. I can't give you children, so maybe you want to leave me and find someone else who can. That is also reminiscent of a story in the Bible that we're not going to go into, but right, like, it's happened. That and maybe that's just how we're wired, but I don't know. I'm going to trust God in everything, and I truly
Mm-hmm.
believe that's where you are in your life, and I'm going to continue to pray for you. I pray that whatever God has for you to do, that you will be obedient and do it, and do not wait, do not procrastinate. Don't be like Shawanna now. Listen, I waited. When he says do it, do it. Aleshia, is there anything else you'd like to share with women who maybe they're just starting out? Maybe they've had one miscarriage, or maybe they're hoping to have children, or maybe they're single and they're, I want to get married and I want to have a family. What advice would you have women who are seeking the same things that you have sought?
I will say the biggest thing is just going to be to trust his plan. It doesn't make sense. It's never going to make sense to you. And as a woman, you have that intuition. You know what you should be doing. It's a feeling. And the good thing about God is that he never takes our blessings from us. And now that path can be a little bit harder if we don't listen, but you're still going to have that blessing on the other side. So the biggest thing, and I have this in my house, like posted, on the wall, it's Romans 8:28. And we know that all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. So if you keep that here, nothing else is going to waver your faith. Nothing else is going to throw you off that path. If you're walking under him, if you're walking in his path, saying that I know that each step that I take forward, I am working. It's working for me. God has ordered my steps. Getting pregnant with Aaliyah, every day I thought something was going to happen. In fact, I didn't tell people I was pregnant until I was probably about 8 months pregnant. They were like, it's like you just told us and then you had her. And I was like, yeah, pretty much. And a little bit of that was some fear in me being like, what if this happens again? What if I have to call everyone and let them know my baby is gone again? Take that, throw it. Because it doesn't matter. From the moment she was conceived, she was picked to be on this earth. From the moment my son Braden was conceived, he was not meant to be here. He was meant to strengthen my faith in God, strengthen my husband and I's marriage, so that when these children came along, that we were ready. So trust that everything, it all works for those who are seeking him constantly. He's never going to punish us without, some resolve. Any bad situation can't be looked at as punishment. It has to be looked at as it's shaping me for the Christian and the person that I'm meant to be, to step into my blessing when it comes. So that would be my biggest advice. Keep walking, keep praising him in advance. When it's not good, praise him then. When it's good, you thank him as well. But the biggest thing is, in your situation, give him the glory, give him the honor. And it's going to make that so much easier of a road for you.
Oh my gosh. Aleshia, you are just awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Listen, girl, almost shouted. Almost started.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Stop.
Oh my gosh. I am just so grateful. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for your journey. And I'm grateful that our paths crossed. I don't think that was a mistake. And I'm just grateful for that. So thank you. Thank you for sharing with us on Candid Conversations. Guys, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. We will have another episode of Candid Conversations coming up soon. We thank you for just continuing to subscribe and like our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. And I think we're on Instagram. Actually, we are on Instagram. Yes, I know I have to remember where all we are. But thank you guys. We appreciate you. And stay tuned for the next Candid Conversations with Shawanna.